Hi, I'm Tim Warner, host of the Inform IT Certification Reference Guide, and welcome to this installment of the OnCertification podcast. The title for this installment is Test Taking Skills Clinic, CompTIA Network Plus 2009, Exam N10-004. Our agenda for this screencast is to identify my recipe for IT certification exam success. I've been in the IT certification industry for a while, and I've taken lots and lots of exams, so I want to pass on some of that encapsulated knowledge that I think can really help you knock over exams quicker and more efficiently. Then we'll introduce our source text for this particular screencast. We'll look at two representative practice questions, paying particular attention not so much to the subject matter, but to the test-taking skills that underlie those questions. Therefore, in a very real way, you can benefit from all of my test-taking skills clinic screencasts, regardless of the subject matter. You can just watch them from the perspective of gathering or sharpening your test-taking skills. Finally, I'll provide you my contact information in case you want to suggest any particular screencasts or if you have any questions or comments and so on. I submit very humbly that any test taker, that is to say, any man or woman who wants to pass an IT certification test, needs to have mastery of the following four skill sets. Otherwise, they are in for a world of hurt walking into that exam room. First of all, I submit that you've got to have a solid grasp of the subject matter, the theory that goes into that certification exam. Secondly, you have to have some practical understanding of the technology at hand. Some exams, like the Cisco exams, will give you a simulated interface where you're asked to perform router and switch configuration tasks. Other vendors like Microsoft may give you a mock-up of some of their GUI tools and ask you to perform some simple tasks along those lines. So we're blending theory and practice on our certification tests. Third, you need to have some basic familiarity with taking a computer-based test. If you've never taken a computer-based test, there are some mechanical issues that you need to have under your belt. Finally, you have to have critical thinking skills. In other words, you have to know some exam psychology. I know lots of folks who have the subject matter cold, but because they don't know how to take a computer-based test and they're not really good at some of the exam psychology stuff, they wind up failing. This fourth bullet point, is the main impetus I've had in putting together this series of screencasts that I call Test Taking Skills Clinic. Our source text today is from our exam cram line at Pearson. In particular, it's a brand new book. It's first to market for this exam, the CompTIA Network Plus Exam Cram 3rd edition by Mike Harwood. It was published on March 11th, 2009, and it's available as a physical product or through Safari Books Online. You can read it electronically. N10-004 is the latest and greatest iteration of the Network Plus test. The author is Mike Harwood, and I apologize for the small text here. I grabbed this author blurb from the Safari Books Online site. I'm not going to read all of it for you. You can read it yourself if you purchase the book or if you get a subscription to Safari Books Online. The bottom line is Mike's a very qualified networking professional. He's got lots of initials and certifications after his last name. He's a radio commentator, an author, technical trainer, and IT pro. And the neat thing about exam cram titles, I say this a lot, is that we choose our authors not just as IT pros, but as folks who are good teachers. You know as well as I do, a good IT pro does not always mean that he or she is a good teacher. Without any further ado, let's get into the meat and taters here. Practice question 1. Now, I have in fact taken the latest version of the Network Plus exam, so I'm not going to break my non-disclosure agreement, or NDA, that I have with CompTIA, but I can give you some really good insider knowledge here. These are representative questions that are similar to what you'll see on the live exam. By the way, the two practice questions we're doing today do come from the exam cram book, so this is kind of what you can expect to see if you purchase the book. Question 1 says, which of the following devices operates at the network layer of the OSI model? And then you're given access point or AP, switch, hub, and router. On one hand, you think, oh, give me a break. I know this. I can just immediately come to the right answer. And if that's true, good for you. The reason I selected this answer, or this choice I should say, this question, is because much of the Network Plus exam has these kinds of questions. To someone who has a fair amount of networking experience, you can buzz through, in my opinion, at least half of the Network Plus exam almost with one eye closed. Bottom line is, you have to know things like just your OSI models, which protocols operate at which OSI layer, which devices operate at which layer, which port numbers are associated with which protocol, what are your maximum cable lengths for your different Ethernet cables. All of that kind of rote memorization stuff is fully tested on your Network Plus test. So you're going to see a lot of these kind of items. Thus, in this case, what is our correct answer? The correct answer is, of these devices, which operates at the network layer? Well, you know as well as I do that would be D, right? The router. So much for question 1. Question 2 represents another typical Network Plus item. This one deals not so much with rote memorization, but with troubleshooting. The troubleshooting scenarios on Network Plus are always very brief, like all CompTIA exams. CompTIA exams are known for being very terse, very brief. This one says you've been called in to troubleshoot a problem with a newly installed email application. Internal users can communicate with each other via email, but neither incoming nor outgoing internet email is working. You suspect a problem with a port blocking configuration of the firewall system that protects the internet connection. Here's the money, the question. Which of the following ports would you allow to cure the problems with the email? Choose the 2 best answers. Well, fortunately, we don't have choose all that apply. We know in advance what we're looking at here, and that's going to be the case with the live exam too. We'll always know how many correct answers we're looking at. So we're looking for 2 correct answers, and we want to concentrate here on the question. What are we being asked? Which ports would you allow to cure the problems with the email? So we're looking for port numbers that are related to email. Well, in a sense, in this question, we could just immediately start scanning these ports and ask ourselves which ports are not related to email and dismiss those. A, you should know, this again is relying upon fundamental memorization. A deals with FTP, doesn't it? It's the control port for file transfer protocol. 25, you should know, is SMTP, that's simple mail. This is a potential candidate. C, port 80, that's HTTP. That could be used for webmail actually, so let's put that on the possible list. D, port 110, you should know is POP3, that's certainly a possibility. 443 is SSL, potentially that could be used for webmail. So, we're better go back to the item stem. You've been called in to troubleshoot a problem with a newly installed email app. Internal users can communicate just fine, but internet email's not working. Now you want to be careful not to overthink. I know you're thinking, like I am, especially if you have some experience. Well, my knee-jerk would be immediately to go for B and D because SMTP and POP3 are our traditional internet email protocols. I mean, when you set up Comcast email or any kind of POP mail, you're always going to specify an outgoing or SIMTP server, port 25, and an incoming POP3 post office protocol server, which is port 110. Then you start to second guess yourself and think, well, wait a minute, what if we're using Exchange and we're doing webmail and it's port 80, or maybe we're doing security? Don't overthink. Stick with the text in the item. Unless it says we're using secure email, don't assume. Therefore, the correct answers here are in fact B and D. Contact information, friends. My email is timothy.warner@pearson.com, and here are all my URLs. You can find me at the Inform IT website. You can find me at Twitter, and the certification reference guide, which really haven't been updating all that much. I'm very active on Twitter, though. Definitely consider following me there, and I update these screencasts all the time. Thank you very much for taking the time to watch this screencast. I hope it was helpful for you.